I completely agree. Summit just says, I don't care what the rest of this comp looks like. I'm winning my lane, and I'm picking up the Lucian. Don't just make sure that we aren't thinking back to last time we saw him play the top Lucian, because it was...
I already erased that from my brain.
Yeah, good. I apologize for reminding you. It was not great, guys. Yeah, certainly not really working out here.
Should be a fun top lane at least. I mean, it's going to be very... It's going to be a skill matchup, basically, between SoHwan and Summit. And Summit, if he comes out to play, I guess he can get ahead in the lane. And that is really what you need with Lucian, because if you don't get ahead with Lucian in your lane, then why even pick him? I mean, there are a lot of other options, and so...
Yeah.
We haven't seen too much Lucian success here, unless Deft is playing it, of course. But,
I mean, that's in the bottom lane, though, right?
Yeah.
Deft actually... alongside Carrier, proved that Yuumi hasn't been nerfed enough, and Lucian is still decent on the bottom side of the map. Their draft yesterday was actually really cool for that first game, but it was another one of those Karma Top styles of draft. And this Lucian will not have that added benefit. So we're going to go over and check out that comp right here. And I feel like they really have just drafted straight into what KT wants to do head first. And it's going to be really, really hard unless they create some sort of crazy lane kingdom. Because the mid game is just going to be poke, 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 free dragons, free anything around the map. Their siege potential on the side of KT is just extraordinary. Even being able to utilize the Blitzcrank to fish for hooks and grab themselves picks where they're looking for it. I mean, KT's comp looks really, really clean. And SoHwan's going to electrocute Jayce.
Yeah. He's going to be in Summit's face right from the get-go. And this is something I've noticed here in the LCK. I know that LS loves to talk about comps and draft and how important it is, and he's right. But we do have a lot of LCK teams, especially SANDBOX, who just love to pick comfort, and they love to pick champions that they've won on previously. And if you look at their draft, it's kind of all over the place. They have a bit of engage with Volibear, but that's not hard engage. I mean, you can run away and kite that guy really easily with what KT have. There's a lot of problems with their comp and their draft, but if you look at the players individually, they're all really good on those champions individually. And SANDBOX are just like, we don't care about comp. Fate's going to play Syndra. Root's going to play Senna. You know, down the line.
Gorilla's on like his champion that he knows how to play.
OnFleek's picked up the Volibear. He's 2-0 on it now.
Yep, and it's also better Olaf, and he was a fantastic Olaf player, as we've spoken about many times. So I think comfort is something that we definitely need to add a little bit of emphasis to. I think you're right. As we've got SoHwan picking up as much regen as possible as far as these runes. We'll see whether the Electrocute is going to be able to help him in this lane against Summit, who is going to have that big test. Like, I find it really rough because you're already on the back foot. You already have to make things happen as the Lucian in this lane, because if you go even, you're losing. And that's just, it's mentally really hard to deal with.
Yeah. Our LCK teams love doing that, though.
Yeah, right?
Putting the pressure on themselves. Trying to get ahead early. And, yeah, we'll have to wait and see how TusiN's Blitzcrank is. We have some great Blitzcrank players. Effort immediately comes to mind when I think about Blitzcrank here.
Oh, here are those stats that we were talking about.
Oh, they were just going to put them up later.
Yeah, so I read them all out, and now here they are.
Yeah. Oh, well.
That means I guess we don't need to talk about them right here.
You guys can see them.
All of that farm.
You know, just digest them a little bit and maybe think about how you feel about that after looking at them.
Yeah, that's a Monk S experience. But Root and Gorilla, they're going to be pretty happy down here on the bottom side. Yes, Aiming and TusiN should be able to find themselves some advantages. But the laning phase of a Blitzcrank isn't super fantastic, never really has been. And we'll see whether the gank setup is going to come in as bonO. He's sinning. He's looking to get down here towards the bottom side and see whether TusiN can land himself a hook. And it looks like Rift Scuttler going to be the first option. As OnFleek up towards the top side, not going to be spotted by anyone, but of course, the Lucian has hard shoved the lane. So no issues there. Summit 0 and 2 is the main culprit for the losses on Lucian on the top side of the map. Yeah. Here in the LCK, we've only had 4 games. He's won 1 of them. Can't quite remember who that was, because I just don't even like talking about top.
Yeah, we don't. We don't enjoy our top Lucians here. We, yeah, the less the better, I suppose. And both Olafs, regular Olaf and then furry Olaf, they just went for full clears into Rift Scuttle, and we're just going to be farming this one out. I feel like the mid lane can get really dicey. Obviously, Zoe and Syndra both have ways to open up fights and look for picks, and you know, with a couple of champions that struggle with hard engage but are great with follow-up, I feel like both Volibear and Olaf could look for ganks there. So other lanes, I think top lanes can easily over-push and try to get too aggressive. You know, the Lucian and the Jayce both very good at that, so maybe some opportunistic ganks there. But for now, OnFleek just warding down on the bottom side of the map.
Yep, he's going to make sure that that dragon isn't going to be freely taken here in 25 seconds time. Might be where bonO wants to go. Our Olafs do very much enjoy that. There's a bit of a stun comes down onto TusiN. Not sure whether he threw out a hook because it wasn't on screen. This gorilla went down to about half health, so maybe that one actually landed. As Root relatively low when it comes to mana. And they are pushing this lane forward. bonO is spotted though, so no issues there, as the Raptor camp is where OnFleek is. So bonO is going to be able to find himself a bit of control for his bottom lane. See whether he does actually walk into this dragon pit, show himself, as you can see OnFleek moving all the way over there. And he does find that ward.
And both of these Olafs are really good at taking the early dragons. I think that Olaf is a bit better than the Volibear. That's one place where he has the advantage over the other jungler. And we see that often with Olaf compositions, where you try to get the first couple of Drakes and just trying to snowball from there and to try to picking up a Dragon Soul. But it doesn't always work out. bonO is going to get to work here on this first Drake, though.
Oh, culling comes in here from Summit, but slightly misaligned. As he's going to push SoHwan out, and no teleports for either top lane. So that is going to be good news here for Summit. Drake is taken here, though, and you can see KT owning the bottom side of the map pretty comfortably with their original version of the Olaf.
Yeah, that's true.
Aiming's also going for Manamune on the Varus. It's been a while since we've seen this particular build.
Huh. That's very...
It used to be standard, but certainly hasn't been recently.
SoHwan is just playing ultra safe. Looks like he's been able to get a bunch more health after the play. Of course, he was forced to flash with the culling after falling behind to the level 6 Lucian, who's going to have a little bit of a lead here. The double Dorans and the longsword for Summit already means that he really wants to put the pressure on in the lane. He's going to delay some of his items to do exactly that.
Yep, going back now, we'll see what he can actually afford. If he can get Bilgewater Cutlass here, it will actually be a lot of extra power that Lucian has available to him. Pings out onto the Lucian, as it looks like he's sticking around. Wants to have a better back timing as OnFleek. Chasing after TusiN here. Eat some honey fruit on the way as Summit will avoid that shock blast. And at least for now, the Lucian is working. He's got a wave coming into him and does have an 11 CS advantage. So being able to shove SoHwan out, definitely reaping the rewards here is the Lucian.
Yeah, it's been a pretty slow one to start this off. Even the junglers are just farming it out, and nobody attempted a gank anywhere on the map. Both mid laners just pushing to their heart's content, not really trying to set up any ganks or anything like that. OnFleek is here now, alongside of bonO. They might run into each other.
Yep, beach balls being thrown around here. There's Fate going to avoid Kuro for the moment, but there's the force of will. Skystrike comes in, ulti goes down there from Fate, who is going to use the cleanse. But Kuro's flash now on cooldown, he has to go back home. bonO gets there in the nick of time, no first blood. However, still an advantage to SANDBOX.
Yeah, I don't know why he flashed. That was very confusing to me. As we look at the top lane once again, SoHwan is having a bit of trouble, especially with the culling against that Lucian. Still no teleport, and he's just going to have to run up there and probably lose some more CS. And yeah, small little mid lane gank that was not handled as well as it could have been by the side of KT, and they're going to fall behind a little bit in the mid lane as well. So we talked about winning lanes and trying to use comfort on their side. SANDBOX are getting a small lead through that, but they're still behind that early Infernal Drake, which is giving KT a bit of value here.
Yep, bit of extra power. Mountain Drake going to be coming in next in just under 2 minutes time. There's Kuro here just looking to try and get back into a favorable position in the mid lane. Misses that bubble, but thankfully we've just cruised away from that particular image as quickly as we can. Aiming will deal with this minion wave pretty comfortably. He does have himself a slight lead, but as the dust settles, it will be Root being able to get back up to basically parity. TusiN teleported into the mid lane, does have the unsealed spellbook on his Blitzcrank. And Kuro going to once again get some shove happening.
We didn't get to see a replay of the mid lane fight. I guess they said it was, you know, there wasn't enough action that really happened here to make it worth it, as now everybody's going to try to rotate up to the Rift Herald, as is customary here, as is tradition in the LCK.
Well, Kuro needs to try and find some of these paddle stars to soften up the members of SANDBOX. We've mentioned that KT do have a pretty powerful poke composition, but they don't want to just go all the way in onto SANDBOX, who want to do exactly that. Undertow does some work. Piercing Arrow is fantastic. His fate has to be moved out, but the hook from the Blitzcrank is so strong. Denies the shield instantly, and Gorilla is just taken down. A very sad catfish. This is what we were talking about. If KT gets that damage across SANDBOX, SANDBOX has no way of actually doing anything in these fights.
It was so sad to watch them just file through, and they're like, can we please have a chance here at fighting around the Rift Herald? And they have no hard engage. They have no way to really get backline access with their team. Their only hope really is Volibear jumping into a fight, but you could see that their burst damage straight from the get-go from KT is more than enough to shut that down. And it does look like KT's pretty massive draft win is looking good for them, even though they did get a little bit behind early on in the game. If they can continue with this, then they should be in a good spot.
Yeah, it's real rough. See where Shelly's going to go as well, as bonO does have himself quite a few camps of a lead. TusiN looking for OnFleek, does have vision available, but decides not to pull the trigger. Not quite in position was the rest of KT. But now, this is what we were talking about. I mean, fighting around objectives is so hard for SANDBOX, because KT set up position, they just cruise around, getting the poke in, and then things get really dicey. OnFleek is over here, but there's no vision available for SANDBOX, and they're going to have to give up yet another Drake. We'll see whether it's going to be Cloud or whether it will be the Ocean. Ocean would be much better if SANDBOX want to get back into this game, but it's not going to be that. The only dragons that SANDBOX can hope to get are going to be those Clouds, which I guess movement speed going to be pretty good for trying to get in.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether that's... it's not going to solve the draft issues that they have as this game goes on.
And if it's even attainable, I mean, they got to get 4 in a row here.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be the easiest thing in the world for them. I suppose that the alt CDR is going to be pretty good for Fate. And even Summit, you know, they get some poke of their own. But
I mean, Gorilla to a certain extent as well, being able to get around the map a little bit more effectively could be good.
Yeah. And at the same time, though, I feel like the Cloud Drakes are pretty good for KT. We talked about Blitzcrank and his, it's like a super, super low CDR that he does get on his ultimate.
Yeah, true.
Cloud Drakes. And this is, look at how desperate they are to get into this fight. And then it's like, oh, Summit can't do damage, Fate can't do damage, OnFleek is desperate to engage, just gets, you know, Gorilla into a bad spot after taking half his health and damage. And that was about that. I mean, they weren't even able to stop the Rift Heralds or smite it away or do anything like that, so it definitely was a big loss for SANDBOX in that fight.
Yeah, we'll see whether SANDBOX can continue to at least utilize their lane positioning to try and get something done, because in these sort of broken up skirmishes, that is an opportunity for them, and Summit is crushing this lane, as he's supposed to. On this Lucian, ahead of the clock as far as farm is concerned, highest in the game. Talking about highest in the game, it's aiming with over double anybody else on the map.
Ooh. Who's going to get this turret first? It's going to be Lucian and Volibear up in the top side.
All right, yeah, that's good news. Fate's also going to come on over here, grab himself a turret plate, but Root's not going to be able to offer anything back. So trying to find an opportunity. Shelly's going to get a second charge into the inner turret before she's taken down. And a bit of a swapsy going to come forward here as Summit with his 25 CS lead is looking to continue the pressure. Does have his Phage. Looks like it's going to be Black Cleaver once again. And will help Senna's damage, I guess. But I don't know what LS would have said about going for that item. Essence Reaver might have been also equally as amazing.
Yeah. And even though the Jayce is getting behind, he did start off with the Ghost Blade. It's going to give him some lethality. It's not going to be great hitting into the Volibear, but it will be quite good up against those 3 squishy members that are on the side of SANDBOX. So even from behind, he can get some value alongside of his team comp that they do have going on here with the poke. And of course, Varus is going to be stacking that up after his Manamune.
Yep.
Does finish off here. And this has been a very slow pace. I mean, SANDBOX haven't really been able to get anything done with their slight early lead. They got in the lanes. KT were just able to bully SANDBOX enough to make them back off before any more kills came in around the Rift Herald. And also kind of just gave over the Drakes at the same time, didn't bother fighting around them. So has been kind of a slow one here to start us off.
100%. Interestingly, TusiN's gone with a QSS as his first item. As, okay, Fate just going to cleanse. That bubble was about to stun him up. TusiN trying to move into position here, but you can see holds on to the Unleash power. Didn't think that he had enough damage to actually take down Kuro there. Kuro also has a stopwatch completed, and so would have been most likely denied. As Fate should be able to collect himself this cannon as he flashes and misses it, unfortunately. Just trying not to die instead of getting the CS.
Mm-hmm. I like how Fate flashes the bubble there. Sometimes you see players trying to save it, and then they're like, oh, even if I get bubbled, if I fall asleep under the turret, you know, if I fail to dodge it, then, you know, maybe I'll survive. But a lot of the time what happens is Zoe just straightens him up real quick, and then you're like, oh, actually I probably should have just flashed the bubble. The only thing is that maybe his team would have been able to follow up really quickly, even if he did die, and perhaps get a counter gank going, but because this is the lull state game 1, we will not have any kills. We will not have any further action.
It is 100% that right now, as KT are just slowly pulling ahead. And if SANDBOX don't actually find some plays, then it'll just continue going like this, and then it'll be a dead Nexus. So I want to see what SANDBOX actually have in store for trying to get a fight to actually work. Cloud Drake going to be available in 3 seconds' time, and it looks like SANDBOX want to fight for it. bonO actually tanking a lot here as the culling flies in. This is the first fight that Summit's actually been a part of, but already he's down to half health. They have to be very scared of aiming and so on. They have a lot of extra damage to add over, and you can see already the Varus looking pretty hot. Chains of Corruption do go wide though. There's a Super Soaker. Gorilla does go golden. Dawning Shadow to keep the Tahm Kench alive. Bubble's going to snipe him there. Piercing Darkness going to get that health bar back up, and the Piercing Arrow not going to be enough there. A lot of piercing. We've got Piercing Light, Piercing Darkness, and Piercing Arrow.
Good luck.
Yeah, the worst.
Yeah, glad I'm not play-by-playing today. And every time that KT and SANDBOX are going to sit in the mid lane and just, you know, sit around and drink a cup of tea and not really do anything or kill anyone, it's always going to benefit the poke comp, right? I mean, KT are just going to sit here. They're going to slowly chip away at your health bars until eventually 3 of your members have to back. And that just means an easy win for KT. Even if they didn't take your lives, they didn't get any kills, they still are able to stack up another Drake. They're able to get a bit more damage onto the mid lane turret. And overall, just the slow creeping snowball is continuing to go here for KT.
And I mean, there's a lot of teams that could potentially be happy with this situation, right? And certain compositions that are going to be all right with it, but I just don't know where SANDBOX's comp gets better, unless you're like talking about an ultra late game with a Senna that's got a bajillion stacks and can one-shot everyone. I just don't think that that's going to happen, right? And also, when's she really going to be in comfortable range of any of these KT members? Aiming's just going to be raining hell on top of this Senna. And they only have one Executioner's Calling now, but it'll be double Mortal Reminders. And the healing coming through from the Senna is going to mean basically nothing the more this game goes on. I mean, Hail of Arrows was already there. It's just real rough. These guys, and I know we've been talking down to what SANDBOX have been doing whilst they've been remaining pretty even on farm, on gold, sorry, but this doesn't even really seem to matter as we have a look once again at this fight where nothing really happens.
Yeah. Is it really a fight, you know?
Yeah, right?
It's like a failed engage. They're able to get the Olaf to disengage. He doesn't even flash unless that's a spectator bug. And Gorilla flashed in to absorb the hook.
That was actually sick. I didn't even notice.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a thread the needle. Yeah.
So finally here in the replay, we get to see exactly what happened. Gorilla, the support basically. He's always going to be there to sacrifice his life for his team.
Hero.
And he did have the stopwatch. Didn't look like anyone else on his team had it, so definitely was the right play at the end of the day.
Did Gorilla try to devour it while Fate was force of willing it? And it went...
Yeah.
That's a technical term, by the way.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's a bit of a yo-yo situation. I hope we get a replay of that one. That's, I think, the most exciting thing that's happened so far this game.
At this point, yeah, maybe we can watch some of the replays from LCS earlier today or something.
Yeah,
like
maybe.
That, you know, it's like, by the way, in other regions, while the game's going on,
we could just replay one of the Tahm or DRX games from yesterday as well if we want to. That's not true. I'm sure they're going to. We just need to talk about some vanilla ice cream.
Yeah.
Like
do you like ice cream cake?
Yeah, I am.
You know that cake
I'm a bit of a fan. It depends what one it is, because of course you can get like really good ice cream cake, and then you can get like the stock McDonald's birthday ice cream cake, which is just pretty awful. Not a big fan of that.
It's like the ice cream that doesn't even taste like ice cream.
Yeah,
it's kinda like just frozen solid at the same time for some reason.
Yeah.
Good ice cream cake is great. I suppose that's where, because for me, if it's not ice cream cake, even if it's not an awesome cake, it's still okay because it's cake.
Yep.
But there's also like really good cake at the same time, whereas ice cream cake is either it's really good or it's just like trash.
My mom used to make a like Christmas pudding ice cream cake for Christmas.
Christmas pudding?
Yeah, and it was actually amazing. It's got
what
like
is Christmas pudding?
It's got like fruit in it, sort of like a fruit cake, but it's like with custard. You normally have it just a regular Christmas pudding.
Yeah.
But this Christmas pudding cake didn't have the custard; it had ice cream instead, and it was actually just amazing.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, my grandma always used to make this cake with the homemade whipped cream. That was always really good.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's so amazing. You could it's just like regular sponge cake, but once you get the whipped cream in, it was like just amazing.
My grandma used to make a lot of scones as well, so the whipped cream factor definitely going strong as hitbox, by the way. On good old Aiming's piercing arrow there.
It's a thick arrow, man.
I mean, Fate watched the arrow go past him and then took damage from it. It was very strange. But now we've got TusiN looking for a hook. Does find the Tahm Kench once again, but the culling going to be eaten mostly by that minion wave. Summit desperate to try and actually get some auto attacks here as Fate in a bit of trouble. Unleash power just thrown out a little bit prematurely there onto Kuro, who's going to land yet another bubble, and there's the shock blast. This is what we were talking about. All of this poke is so dangerous onto SANDBOX, and they're unable to actually force anything. It's Kuro.
Look at Kuro.
They're just fish in a barrel. Catfish in a barrel.
Yeah. They can't do anything. Gorilla's so desperate, he's like, maybe I can engage guys. He like runs up to them. He's like, oh, wait, no. I'm level 9. I probably shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And Volibear is even more desperate and almost pathetic in this kind of a game. He's like throwing out his poke. It's like, okay, this is not why you were picked. but he can never engage because he'll just get blown up immediately because it's not hard engage, even if he flashes in there, unless it's like a really good opportunity. And so far, KT have been doing really good at their positioning and just backing away, kiting them back, poking them all the way down. You can see how they just kept that kind of phalanx into the concave, into the river, as SANDBOX were like desperately trying to get a fight started. But it just didn't happen, so another free Drake comes in here for KT. That's Cloud Soul now, just simply picked up without much pressure from the side of SANDBOX, and we're still 1 kill at 24 minutes.
And I mean, if, okay, OnFleek gonna look for Kuro here. Red buff gonna be burning down, but he misses the ulti. Dawning Shadow flies by, but Kuro is going to be all right. And it looks like OnFleek's just gonna have this turned on him, aiming. Picks up the second kill of the game pretty comfortably, is now TusiN. He's gonna get snared, but immediately QSS's that one away. Tries to run as there are exhausts traded on both sides. It takes them a while, but SANDBOX gets their first kill. Root now going to get devoured. Teleport in to this turret here. As aiming, gonna look for another piercing arrow. Flashes out, is now SoHwan getting on top of Gorilla to the sky, is gonna be avoided. Gorilla's gonna need to eat some of that gray health though as Summit flashes to get himself out of the way. Kuro with a flash picked up himself, but the shock blast not going to land. And after the portal jump, Kuro's unable to find his target. So SANDBOX, they get a kill. Which is pretty cool. The Summit looking for bonO. Culling flies in. Now Summit's going to have to get out of the way. Gorilla going to gobble up Senna, and they're going to lose to their inner turret. So despite SANDBOX trying really hard to do stuff, none of the stuff that they're doing actually matters, really.
No. Yeah, pretty much. They're desperately trying to find fights and desperately trying to engage, but none of that is really happening. And it wasn't the cleanest follow here. I don't know why it's so hard for these players to find kills. He was desperately trying to buy the Morellos, and then LS just, he possesses OnFleek. He's like, don't let him do it. And then Kuro.
That's the right kind of window shopping, though, you know? It's like actually just baiting.
And then Kuro buys it anyway, by the way, so.
Oh, yeah.
As is customary here in the LCK. I mean, it is up against Senna, so I suppose there is some of that. It takes away a lot of the healing up against the poke comp, which is very valuable. So.
I mean, they're already going to have
just
two Executioner's callings, though, so
well,
I don't know whether it's entirely necessary, but that's fine.
The more,
the merrier.
The merrier, I guess, at this point in time. SoHwan was like, if I can dodge the lick, then I can really get in their face, but it was a good spot there by Gorilla, who I feel like is having a great game, although, you know, there's unfortunately 0 follow-up, as I think there were 3 members there that all missed the cannon.
Oh, God.
I don't even know how that's possible.
Well, I think it's now time for KT to move on over towards a Baron and look to see whether there's any way that SANDBOX can actually stop them from taking it for free. So far this game, KT have walked up to every objective that they've wanted and taken it without any sort of response out of SANDBOX. And not because SANDBOX aren't doing anything, but because their composition isn't actually able to do anything.
Yeah, especially from behind. I mean,
yeah,
they were able to roll their bit of an early lead that they got into something more, and then control objectives and force KT to come into them in a way, then maybe they could have got it going. They would have had some of the similar problems in their composition, but if KT, you know, didn't handle it correctly and they felt forced into some objectives, then maybe SANDBOX could have gotten far enough ahead for it not to matter. But they got behind after the Rift Herald fight where the first kill happened.
Yep.
And since then, it's just been a little bit of sadness for SANDBOX.
Sadness continued as the cannon creep is ignored once again. Summit gonna find bonO here, or has bonO found Summit? As immediately OnFleek has to ult to get himself out of the fight. Bubble's going to connect though, and Devour has to be used as well. Every single cooldown possible to save the bear, as he's gonna run back to the fountain. They're going to miss out on that added help, and it means that SANDBOX have to give away yet again more objectives. Piercing Arrow will find Summit. Yeah, it's about 30 a health bar, just from one ability that you are going to find very difficult to answer. And as you can see, damage dealt. Yeah, basically what we're expecting here this game.
Yeah. Fade throughout his ult a couple times. Summit called in the lane and in the river a couple times. But other than that, they haven't been getting much effective damage, where KT has, in spades, been getting insane amounts of damage. Now we have Elder coming up here. I don't think that SANDBOX can just let this one go. And so he might just have one of the last fights in this game if they really try to make a case here.
Well, they are at least playing the Dance Dance Revolution pretty well at this point in time against the poke. Root, immediately though, after I say that, is going to take a shock blast to the face. Summit does get over here. Some vision able to be put down here by SANDBOX, but they have to avoid the bubbles. And the zoning done here by KT. It's really beautiful to watch. Another minion wave is going to push SANDBOX even further back towards their base. Just look at how far up Aiming can walk. There's just no way that SANDBOX can actually threaten them here, as Summit looks for TusiN, avoids the hook as there's the culling. bonO just eats it, and they're not really going to be able to do too much, as another bubble going to connect here from Kuro. Having a much better performance here today, as Root will have to go back home. He has teleport.
Yeah.
As Summit at least patrolling the river here. But now he's 1 versus 5. It's going to be quite difficult.
He's so desperate to get anything done. I mean, he's the only person on his team that has any damage in the, quote-unquote team fight. I wouldn't even call it that.
Oh, goodness. Okay, here's a Chains of Corruption. OnFleek going to be down to pretty impossible health levels if he's actually going to try and get in there and start something. And this is exactly how KT is supposed to play this competition, right? It's all about denying SANDBOX any ability to actually enter a team fight, let alone win it, right? As KT, they're going to start off this Elder. They feel like they might be at a better position at this point in time with OnFleek's health bar. OnFleek still has to stick around, but now the fight might actually start towards the top side. Exhaust going to be used onto Aiming here as the Elder Drake in amongst the mix. Fate's going to find himself a blue buff, but that's not going to be stopping any Elders.
I suppose at least it reset. That's about the only positive news I can say for SANDBOX. And one way to engage if you have no engage in your comp is to try to surround them. And that's why I feel like Summit is actually doing a pretty good job, but he's all alone. I mean, he's the only one that's able to do anything.
I mean, he's trying, and we'll see whether OnFleek can actually make this a 50-50. Gonna have the ultimate, but gonna miss out on that Elder. Now we've got Cloud Soul, Elder Drake, we got a dead bear. The Lucian, I think, died somewhere in amongst the mix as bonO flashing on top of Root. He's gonna go down. This should be the teamfight ace if they can chase down Fate, and they definitely can. There's no mobility really on the Syndra and the Tahm Kench. That's the double kill, and that will most likely be the game.
They're pretty far away, but I think they're just going to run it down mid and see what they can get done. Obviously, tons of damage and some really nice wave clear. So they're just going to push this one in. And I don't know what to say, guys. It was a pretty straightforward game, and we were kind of feeling the effects as actually they're going to send Jayce mid and then go at the Baron. They say, well, Volibear's coming up. We got Senna and Tahm Kench and Lucian soon. So let's play it safe. Let's take down the Baron first. And, I mean, at this point, they can essentially do whatever they want, so...
I mean, right now, they should be discussing what they're going to do in Game 2, to be honest. I think this game is well and truly over. As we're going to have a look at this fight one more time. And it's just such an uphill battle for SANDBOX. There is just nothing that they can really do against so much poke, as OnFleek's been late.
If they got
Elder, yeah, right?
It maybe, with, like... Root and Fate, maybe they could try to poke back a little bit, but it just feels like a little bit too little too late. You would have lost Volibear pretty much immediately, like they did in that fight, and all that extra damage just makes all those squishy members even easier to kill with the Elder. Very straightforward. I mean, it took SANDBOX like 2 minutes to try to find an angle to even contest the Drake pit, okay? So the fact that they even got close, I suppose, is a win in some messed up way.
Yeah. You also have to remember that Aiming locked in the Varus first pick. So SANDBOX knew that KT was going to draft poke. And look, Aiming has done absolutely anything that he has wanted for this entire game.
That was pick 1.
Yeah. It's face up, about as face up as he can get.
Yeah.
So a little bit inexcusable here. KT are just going to crash down these inhibitors. SANDBOX are going to continue to have absolutely no options as the hook is going to miss from TusiN there. Does get taken down to his passive shield, but as you can see, there's just no real answer from SANDBOX. Summit's going to be lit on fire, sent back to his fountain. We do have a pseudo-engage here as finally aiming's going to go down. Gorilla eats some gray health, TusiN very low. KT are going to kite this one out. They do manage to take both Nexus turrets and 2 inhibitors, but it looks like SANDBOX have staved them off for the minute.
Yeah, I mean, OnFleek found a very strange flank, and it was actually really effective how he was able to ult into the back line and get that fight started. And if they can find some kind of engage, it's not so bad even from how far behind they are. Of course, Syndra and Senna are going to have a nice amount of burst damage at this point in time. As you can see, it was all Kench getting the Volibear into the back line. And when you have no hard engage, this is about as good as it gets. The Abyssal Void straight to 5 members. Gorilla, he has played a huge sacrificial role for his team in this game. I feel like if SANDBOX would win, I might even give him the player of the game vote for it.
Oh, 100%. I think it's if SANDBOX somehow managed to find a win. I mean, maybe there's a absolute mega play out of someone that'll get them over the line, but if you're just judging on what's happened in the first 34 minutes, I mean, Gorilla has looked pretty good. His Tahm Kench has always been good, right? But in this composition, it doesn't really matter, unfortunately. This Kuro is going to miss all of that farm. But, I mean, is farm necessary?
He's bubbled the brush.
Well, Fate's almost dead. Oh my god, that shot blast would have been the death of the Syndra. Now it's 4 versus 5. As, okay, yeah, well, very much 4 versus 5, as SoHwan's going to be able to lock down that kill. Summit does a fair bit of damage there with the culling, but it doesn't really matter. This inhibitor should go down.
Oh, Gorilla!
Oh, damn, they are just fishing for catfish. And what was that ultimate OnFleek? Doesn't even really seem to matter here, as it's a double kill for SoHwan. Kuro throwing bubbles around, just having a good time as the bear he's getting out of here. He doesn't want to be in amongst this game, but KT aren't going to let him. He's going to head towards the death chamber, 13-2. The Nexus is going to be taken down, and I think that was the biggest draft win that we've ever seen. Here in the LCK, KT steamrolls